Your supply chain can make or break your business. With GLOBALTRANZ, you have the advantage of innovative logistics technology, expansive solutions and carrier network, and a partner committed to your success. GLOBALTRANZ, freight driven by technology.
Welcome to Off the Supply Chain, a show for shippers. If the supply chain is all about cooperative competition, so is our show. We're bringing you compelling perspectives from 3 industry experts. Global supply chains are becoming more complex as consumer demand increases. The greater need for products, ingredients, and raw materials directly translates into increased environmental impacts. As consumers and organizations become aware of the potential damage caused by global trade and logistics, how can we develop more sustainable supply chains? And how could companies become better environmental stewards? These are just some of the questions we'll be answering today. Now to your host, Chad Prevost.
Joining us today on sustainability in the supply chain are Michael Vincent, FreightWaves Executive VP of Commercial Solutions, Seth Holm, making another appearance, FreightWaves Senior Research Analyst, Zach Strickland, still looking for his first win, Market Analyst, Sultan of Sonar. Who will win the Off the Supply Chain Gold Chain and be Champion of the Week? Each guest gets 40 seconds to respond with a 30-second follow-up. And of course, this is the Supply Chain Show of competitive banter, so we keep score. When you hear this sound, you have 10 seconds. When you hear this sound, you're out of time. This sound means you get a point, and this sound means you lose a point. The next 10 to 15 years will present major opportunities for consumer companies. Some 1.8 billion people are expected to join the global consuming class by 2025. The environmental impact in the supply chain isn't limited to just greenhouse gas emissions. Things like air quality issues, water pollution, and energy use are all important considerations. How can technology build sustainable supply chains? Vincent, let's start with you.
Well, first of all, technology can't, people can. And what I mean by that is really, we look at new technology, biodiesel, electric cars, electric trucks, wind power has been around for, centuries, et cetera. It is the collaboration and the use of really what we have right now. If we collaborate with each other, work with each other, shippers, carriers, the intermediaries in between, creating greater efficiencies with the use of what we have now, the capacities of the different modes that we have right now, and reduce that idle time and empty and use the capacity we already have, you can reduce the...
Seth, what do you think? Is it just about collaboration? Are there other methods and approaches?
I think technology can definitely play a part. Things like artificial intelligence, machine learning, using the blockchain to track compliance. If you think about Chipotle a couple years ago when they had their foodborne illnesses, you can use things for monitoring your suppliers, making sure they're following your high standards, and it's a lot easier in the digital era for sure. But it does take people to do this as well, and I think one big aspect is when you have big companies that are held accountable, that will help as well.
Okay, held accountable as well. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, technology certainly can help. Obviously, you have to implement all of that technology effectively, which is the key. We have a lot of opportunities out there now with the Internet of Things, all these smart devices tracking all of our movements every day. They're embedded in all of the the equipment that we use, the manufacturing, the factories. You can track all of that, and then you can use that information. It doesn't necessarily have to be artificial intelligence or some sort of futuristic thing that happens. It's literally just taking advantage of what we already have that'll really give us the best chance at providing that.
taking advantage of what we already have, well, are shippers and carriers doing enough with technology around the world right now to confront major environmental issues in the supply chain, Zach?
No, they're not. They have a lot of stuff that they're leaving on the table. And a lot of that is simply because they're just not motivated in the long term. There's a lot of short-term motivation to make them profit now versus having a long-term approach to their business models. They need to really make sure that the things that they're doing today are actually helping them provide for the future, you know.
Yeah, okay. Are we doing enough right now? What do you think, Seth?
I think we're on a good path, but you have to have tangible goals and economic incentives. So when McKinsey looked at this, only 1 out of 12 executives have their compensation tied to improving their supply chains. Only 1 in 7 suppliers are economically incentivized to clean up the supply chain. So you got to have tangible goals, not just we want to reduce pollution by 20%, you have to set a target.
Wow, very good. What do you think, Vincent?
I agree mostly with what Seth and Zach have said. I think that you can look at the numbers and see that certain industries and certain players are doing enough. I don't know what doing enough actually means. There's a lot of different opinions on what that happens to be. I think that one of the big hurdles is exactly what Zach was talking about, is that immediate gratification society that we have. And the consumers are really driving this type of stuff, right? They're driving whether the companies can do enough or not, right? If you're demanding everything be done right now, how is a manufacturer going to say, no, that's not good for the environment and we need to change?
Well, after one round, we have Vincent with 4, Seth with 7, and Zach with 5. One condition that can slow a company's growth is poor sustainability performance as measured in environmental and social impact. To make and sell goods, consumer businesses need affordable, reliable supplies of energy and natural resources, as well as permission from consumers, investors, and regulators to do business. Who do you think should be responsible for sustainable supply chains? Regulators, consumers, or businesses? Seth, let's start with you.
I'm going to say primarily businesses, although regulators and consumers can also play a part. But when you think about it, businesses are the ones actually reaching out to those suppliers, setting up those supply chains and holding them accountable. They also make a profit, and consumers need to hold them accountable in the form of social media, like they have been, calling companies out who are bad actors in this. And then regulators, that's their job to help do this, but we all know they don't effectively do that most of the time. So I think it falls mostly on the companies for sure.
Mostly on the companies. What do you think, Zach?
Ultimately, it's on the consumers. If they don't buy the products, then the businesses don't operate. Sure, the businesses have a responsibility of their own to provide transparency and visibility to what they're doing. They can control the upstream effects, but ultimately, if there's nobody purchasing the products, then they're going to have to adapt to that. So the consumers are the ones driving the biggest change in the sustainability practices.
What do you think, Vincent?
I disagree with Zach's proposal to boycott businesses, and I disagree with both of them. I think that it's everybody's responsibility. It's all three equally. And what I mean by that is manufacturers do need to be investing in these new technologies, looking for a way to collaborate and utilize what we have and bring those new technologies forward. But we as consumers need to also demand this, not through boycotts or not buying or whatever, but accepting these new things. We make fun of paper straws, we make fun of fake meat, etc., right? It becomes this joke type of thing that happens. And countries need to take things seriously.
Okay, so not just as a joke, but someone has to pay for this. Ultimately, how can supply chains create sustainability programs that actually provide or create value? Let's start with Zach.
So what they need to do first off is hold people accountable in their businesses. They need to set up an action plan. Actually, the first thing they need to do is determine what the action is and the ROI for it. Because sustainability is going to be a profit center for them if they do it correctly. If they do find things, such as, there's a lot of companies out there like Walmart that reward their suppliers for providing these benefits to their supply chain. They're doing sustainable practices and whatnot, and you have to have something actionable to make it happen.
Vincent, what do you think?
I agree 100% with what he's saying.
Point to Zach.
I'd gladly give it up because it was very well stated. It is,
All right.
they have to look for a plan, but it has to be planned out dramatic. It can't be first steps, well, this makes things green. Where do they need to be in 20 years? And build that backwards. Okay, so if we need to be here in 20 years, where do we need to be in 18, 16, 14, 12, 10? And so what do we start with right this absolute second?
What do you think, Seth?
I think there's a long ways to go just in terms of transparency in the supply chain. When you look at companies, a lot of times they don't even know who their suppliers are. I remember sitting in economics class, and when you think about making a pencil, there's like 100 companies that are involved in making that pencil. So you got to get transparency. You got to get more efficient. There's a lot of waste in the supply chain, a lot of byproducts and stuff like that. You need to cut down on that, and you need to streamline it and consolidate the supply chain.
Fantastic stuff. I'm learning a little bit each and every round. We have Vincent with 8, Seth with 12, Zach with 9. For decades, America's main export to China was trash, cardboard, and plastic. It used to be that the U.S. would send our recycling to China. China would use the material to make more goods and then ship these new goods back to the U.S. That's right, America creates so much trash that we have to export it. Now, China is trying to clean up its image. That means some 7 billion tons of garbage needs to find a home. Now that China is no longer taking our trash, where do we put it? Zach, let's start with you.
We got to take care of our own trash. That you can't just continuously dump on every other country in the world. I think the Philippines and Indonesia, Cambodia has even rejected our attempts at dumping our trash on them. You know, there's a lot of kind of heartfelt stories of these people out there that, you know, went out and sorted trash, sent their kids to college, you know, did these things, and that's just not going to happen. That's not sustainable. We need to figure out a better way to deal with our own problems internally. You know, recycling our own trash, turning it into something else, you know, down the stream is definitely the solution. We got to figure it out ourselves.
What do you think, Seth?
I think we need technology here. One of the problems is, you know, with all these plastic water bottles, you need a perfectly clean, clear plastic water bottle. So you need R&D and investments behind this. You need companies like, I read an article about how Procter & Gamble, they have an engineer that might have finally cracked the code on all these millions and billions of consumer plastic goods, laundry detergent bottles, shaving cream, deodorant, all this. You need some technology. It's unbelievable that we have all this sophisticated technology and we can't figure out how to turn plastic
Because there's no money
into
reusable.
But we could figure it out.
No, we
could.
can figure it out.
Absolutely.
But there's no money in it, so they're not going to try.
Vincent, what do you think?
I don't want to say I agree with either one of them because I don't want to give up any points because I'm in last place. But we don't put it anywhere. We have to deal with it with by ourselves. We have to utilize the technologies we have. We have to put money into R&D to create a solution to this problem. Because for too long we've just been waking up on a Monday morning, hauling the trash out to the curb. We get up in the morning, come home from work, and it's empty. We put it back by the side of the house or in the garage, and that's what America's been doing forever, right? And until that stops moving, and there's garbage in the streets, and cats and dogs living together in complete mayhem, we're not going to do anything about it.
Well, why does it seem to be so hard for us to figure out ways to recycle our own trash, Vincent?
Money.
Okay, just
money. Follow the dollar. In my former life, the refurbish of floor covering. Everybody attempted to do it. It's dirty, it's filthy, it's disgusting. Nobody wants to do it. It costs a ton of money, and nobody wants to buy the stuff because it's too expensive to get it done. There's got to be incentives to have that done. Was I done? To what I did.
I thought you were, but you were running out of time.
Sorry.
Go ahead. All right, Seth.
A lot of the problem is consumers don't know how to recycle, and you have a ton of food contamination. So people are just throwing everything they can possibly find, most of it out of goodwill. They're thinking they're doing, you know, they don't want to feel guilty about doing it. At the same time, you need stuff like machine vision that can put these things down a line and separate them. The other problem is in the US, where you have high cost labor, you know, cleaning these things off, you have to pay someone to do it, so it's not economical.
Also, there's a whole lot of different kinds of plastics as well.
Yeah, but I mean, the problem isn't going to solve itself. We're obviously going to get to the point where things are so bad that people are going to be willing to pay for these processes. We're not going to go out and develop it on our own. The manufacturers obviously have found the cheapest way to make their products, and they're going to stick to that until something changes and it becomes literally unprofitable for them to do so.
Which goes back to your consumers maybe driving and dictating some of the terms.
Ultimately, yes. The businesses will then respond to them because they're not going to be motivated without money.
And after 3 rounds, Vincent at 10, Seth at 16, and Zach coming in hot at 15. And now is the time for our lightning round, big deal or little deal. What's the deal with you? Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison has responded to an impassioned speech by a Swedish teen and climate activist at the United Nations, Greta Thunberg, saying the climate change debate is subjecting Australian children to needless anxiety. Big deal or little deal, why or why not, Vincent?
It should be a big deal. It'll turn out to be a little deal because we're a headline society and we'll forget about it, but it is actually a very big deal. I lived through the hot days of the Cold War and Cuban Missile. It should be big.
Okay, Seth, what do you think?
I think it's a little deal. Sometimes you need an impassioned halftime speech to get people to actually care about something. And if that's what she did and she ignited a mob on social media,
that would make it a big deal.
Whoops. I don't think the anxiety is a big deal. I think where she went in terms of raising people's awareness about this issue is a little deal.
Yeah,
doesn't care
lost
about
a
little
point
kids'
there.
anxiety.
Zach, what do you think?
It's a little deal, so what? Another person chiming in about the environment. Nobody really, I mean, the fact is they have anxiety. Well, everybody has anxiety to an extent, and a speech given halfway around the world, I just don't think that that's accurate.
Interesting perspectives. All across the globe, many companies and people are switching to paper straws instead of plastic, choosing paper over plastic as an eco-friendly alternative. Big deal or little deal, why or why not, Seth?
I think it's a big deal. When you think about straws, people use 1.5 per day. That's 500 per person per year, and you got 8 billion people on the planet, and it's landing in the ocean, and then it's not being separated out in the recycling centers. So it's a problem. Big deal.
Zach, what do you think?
That's absolutely a big deal, but for a different reason. I don't like paper straws. I do miss the plastic straw, even though it's doing harm to the environment. But at the same time, it just means we need to find a better solution than a paper straw.
Hey, what do you think, Vincent?
I think it's a big deal. I agree with Seth, and Zach is the problem. Because he won't use them, he wants plastic. It's an inconvenience, and that's part of the problem with the whole sustainability, is the inconvenience and our immediate gratification.
Okay, because consumers sometimes dictate the terms.
They absolutely dictate the terms. If you can't sell it,
Point to Zach for that big point that he made a long time ago. Okay, and for our final topic. We all love chocolate, but churning all those cacao pods into sweets is wreaking havoc on the world's forest. As part of its Cocoa for Generations plan, Mars says it is creating a deforestation-free global cocoa supply chain for such iconic sweets as M&M's, Twix, and Snickers. Big deal or little deal, why or why not? Let's start with Zach.
I think it's a huge deal, the fact that this big company is going out there and actually trying to do something about it. Now, the point remains they haven't done it yet, so they need to go ahead and put this into action. But I think it's a huge deal, especially since I love chocolate so much.
But if it doesn't taste quite the same, will you not buy it?
Probably
like
not.
the straw?
Oh, yes, good. Yeah, good point. I don't know. Seth, what do you think?
I think it's a little deal. It's just one small chocolate company in the grand scheme of things. Deforestation is a much bigger issue than cacao, is that how it's pronounced? You've got livestock, you've got agriculture, you've got palm oil, all the other things that are wrecking.
So again, it's a big deal.
Yeah, again, it is a big
Vincent,
deal.
what do you think?
Nice
Final
try.
word.
Nice try, but you said it was a big deal, and you're also wrong. Mars is not a small little candy company. It's a huge deal. Agree with Zach 100%. It's a huge deal. A company is going out there. They're making it public. Hopefully it'll stick. Hopefully it'll be a good product and will lead others in other industries, as Seth points out, to do the same.
And for the final tally, it is Vincent with 15, Seth with 19, and Zach with 21. Zach, you finally did it.
Broke through.
The Off the Supply Chain Champion of the Week. What are you gonna do?
I'm gonna go back to work.
Oh, okay. Well, not very inspiring, but congratulations on your competitive banter.
GLOBALTRANZ offers a full suite of solutions around logistics, supply chain, and transportation.
Technology is what we do. GLOBALTRANZ is bringing the trucking industry into the 21st century. From a small family-run business to now almost $1 billion company, We did that all together as a team, and we're bringing the people, processes, and software together.
When I joined the company 3 years ago, I was attracted to the high growth and fast-paced environment, but I'm proud to say that we still have that nimble entrepreneurial spirit.
As a leader in logistics technology, our platform allows us to serve any market, any mode, at any time. We're at the forefront of the logistics market.
Our teams will always find a way to adapt to the best possible solution to service our customers.
Our team is here for our customers, literally 24/7 by 365, because we need to be, and we'll get it done anytime, anywhere. We have a very competitive team, and that's what we really enjoy doing.
Our mantra is simple: we are the future of freight.